I believe we can get started now.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's office hours. If you have any questions first, please do put it in the chat. And this session is being recorded, and you can find the recording in the link that is pinned in the chat. Before we begin with the questions that you see on the screen, maybe we go around the room and introduce ourselves. I can get us started, and then we can go around. So, hi everyone. I'm Deb, and I've been with this is my second year with the champs program, and in my current role I am a product owner for Adobe Analytics, and my focus is primarily on implementation and consultation on Adobe tagging solutions within the organization for different Deloitte.com sites and subsites of Deloitte.com. We additionally also provide support on data integrations and data governance within the organization and bringing in new data sources into the system. So that's a little bit about me.
Hey, hello everyone. Hi, Arun here. This is my second year in Adobe Analytics Champions program. I'm an enterprise architect in Nextdoor Digital. I have over 14 years of experience in analytics, personalization, and data management platform. And I recently moved to CDP. And for the past 3 years, I'm working closely with AEP, RTCDP, and CJA. And right now I'm based out of Chennai, India, and most of my work right now revolve around consulting, working with my sales team or working with my internal team or downstream teams to ensure that they understand the martech environment properly, and then they get go along with their implementation and reporting.
Thanks, Pradeep and Deb. Hi, everyone. I'm Isha, and for some logistic reasons, I cannot come on camera. The reason being, my son has drawn a cat on my face. So I have been working in digital analytics for last 10 years. Currently, I live in Ireland with my husband and son. So here I am working at Three Ireland, and I'm leading the practice of digital analytics. I am a single person team here, and I'm responsible for managing the entire infrastructure of digital analytics, which spans from requirements gathering to implementation, reporting, recommendations, insights generation, and everything. So it's been fun working in that zone, and it's also my second year as a champion, and I look forward to having this great session with you guys today.
Awesome. Uh, we have any others on the team? Okay. Okay, so yeah, like Isha said, we are usually just small teams within our own organization, and so hopefully the office hours is a great place to come and not feel like you're the only one there out there and ask questions that you don't find maybe on Experience League, or you need an answer just more detailed for various other reasons. But thank you for being here. Um, so today we have a few questions that we have, that came in earlier, as well as if you have any questions that you're here for and you would like getting answered, we can either take a first jab at it or can get back to you. So let's go with our first question. And the first question that we have on the chat, or rather, which we've put in the workspace, is how do I see the full set of metrics in data warehouse? Our custom metrics from event tracking are not available. So, Isha, do you want to take a first stab at that?
Yeah, so I just added couple of notes here. First off, the metrics in questions. I think the very first need to things that need to be checked is that are those events actually enabled in report suite? I mean, obviously it should be, but if you are able to see the data in report suite and workspace. Second thing that I would check is that the events that you're trying to fetch into data warehouse are not calculated metrics, because calculated metrics are not yet supported in data warehouse. If you're trying to export calculated metrics, then I would suggest you probably use report builder for that. Also, if the report suite in question is not a virtual report suite, because I have experienced in past that when I have used virtual report suite, there have been some limitations to export, and I'm not able to run the export as expected. And if you think that you have the metrics available and it's not even data warehouse sorry, it's not a data warehouse specific issue, then I think you might need to reach out to client care. The other thing that I would just like to point out for the new UI is that for the new UI or data warehouse, there are some things that probably needs to be worked out. For example, if you select a report suite in your left hand side and then you click on create new report, then still you have to change the report suite from the top left. If you top left drop down, if you do not change the report suite from there, then sometimes it happens that the report suite is some other one, or the default report suite that is assigned to the whole Adobe Analytics instance, and in that the event 100 is not available. So those are few of the things that I would check. Maybe Pradeep and Deb have some other ideas on what could be wrong here.
Yeah, I mean, I just add to what you said. The one thing is, like you see on the screen over here, you don't see the full name of the report suite. One of the things that we do in our organization is we add a suffix of what environment that report suite belongs to. So we add like production, or we add, stage dev, whatever it is. So it's, this may be quick and but silly, but it does happen. It has happened where you're selecting the wrong report suite. And you may want to just expand on that left panel and check if you're on the correct report suite. Uh, the other thing that we usually do is, have you enabled that in all the environments, right? Because, say for example, you have gone in there into the report suites, you've clicked on the report suite, maybe who was in your admin has enabled it in a lower environment, has not done that in the production environment. So that could be one other reason. And then I mean, I would start with checking the site itself, if that is firing, uh, and which report suite that data is going to. So I would just do a quick debugging on the site. These are some other ways that I could think of that would help you in reaching and finding that event 100.
Yes, I guess my answer goes with both Isha and Deb, right? So they have already covered all the points, but still, I'm just figuring out and trying to do something in the new interface. I'm not working on the data warehouse day in, day out. So I just logged in. I was trying to understand how the new interface was working. Earlier, during our older interface, there are tabs which will clearly state you, hey, is it a custom metric or it's a standard metric, right? So all these things were there. But when I log in now and see, it is exactly replicating the workspace interface. I can see that in the left hand side we have metrics, dimensions, and segments, which is properly there. And if at all you want to add all the metrics together, I just experimented it. I can just click on metrics, select all, drag and drop. Everything just came in easily. So now it should not be a bigger problem in terms of getting all the dimensions and metric directly into the data warehouse report. It is much more easier like workspace. So yes, just ensure that whatever the metric which you are seeing is enabled and it is not a metric, or it is a metric supported for a data warehouse. If it is there, getting them into the data warehouse scheduling should not be a bigger ask. So it's a straightforward.
Okay, great. Let's move on to our next question. Okay. So, how can we import any external metrics from a CSV into Adobe Analytics and use it in Workspace? And just
um
gonna scroll
yeah.
a little lower, and
Yeah.
you know,
So I added this text some directly from the documents. Uh, in my experience, there are two possible options that the user can use. One is data sources, other is data insertion API. A brief on each of these. For data sources, it will let you add online or offline data. For example, some simple examples of data sources would be ship dot. placed orders versus submitted orders versus shipped orders, because you will have data of shipped orders in your data warehouse or some other repository. Then you can just upload that kind of data. So wait a second. The other option, data insertion API, would be I use data insertion API so for one of my use case right now, and it's like it will. So if you have a recurring job that you can build using API or in Python, then you can just use data insertion API. Sorry, David Pradeep, can you take this?
No problem. Yes, I would also go with the same. So, since because the question is very much constricted towards um, external metrics, the only option is data sources and data ingestion API, right? So, if the question is somewhere around how do you ingest the data, then there are multiple other ways. But since because it is only narrowed down to the metrics, yes, the option is data where sources and the data ingestion API. As said, data sources, right? So if some of the metric is already captured in your system and you want to add or apprehend much more metrics so that the data or else the reporting would be like from end to end, or reporting would be from the overall stand, then definitely data sources will be going to be really helpful for you. But if at all you want to ingest the record newly, it is a new record. Let's say you have a external source where you want to ingest a new event or new record directly to the system, means then bulk data insertion API or data insertion API are the best option. Bulk data insertion, you can use it via CSV, and data insertion API, you can use it or streaming, right? So it can be real time, like how we are sending the API based GK data or app measurement data through a beacon. Using API, you can ingest the data every second or every minute based on the timestamp, right? So that is the data insertion API. But data insertion API, you can send a CSV file with multiple records in it with the timestamp, so that it can adjoin with all the data right now. You have it in Adobe Workspace. So data source and data insertion API are the only options for you to export or import a metric. But assume you have dimensions to upload, then you have customer attributes, you have classifications, right? Multiple other options are there. Deb, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I would just think about, like, yes, you're bringing in a new data source. The idea would be to understand for who it is, right? And why I say that is because what makes it more accessible is to think about what's the frequency at which you're going to be uploading this data, and what's your look back window. Like, are you doing this on a daily frequency with a look back window of 1 day, or monthly frequency of look back window for a month? So that is important when you're thinking of bringing in new data sources, because that helps make the data more useful, right? Because if the data in itself is not going to be as as real time as you define it, the use of it would be much lesser, or not relevant to the group that wants to bring in this additional data source. So that's a couple of factors to think about, is the frequency and the look back window. Yeah.
Yeah, perfectly. Yes, that's a very valid point. Yeah. Also, I have seen in this particular question, so it is particularly narrowed down to social impression and engagement, right? So, if just an additional events, then you need to ensure that which key you need to go and attribute to it, right? So, let's say for all you are capturing a tracking code, make sure that whenever you are uploading using data source, that key is properly mapped so that all this impression in engagement can be tied back to that particular EVOR or prop, so that you can ensure that you have the complete reporting, like from impression to engagement, clicks, click throughs, or even drill down to the conversions, right? So the entire journey you want to see, then it has to be through a data source, because it is not a new record, rather it is something which is already in your ad platforms, which can extend the journey to your web or mobile and then ends there.
Yep, that's right. Let's move to our next question. Isha, you okay? Um,
I added something, but it's okay. I think because of the reload, it might have removed. So, I, I mean, I just add, but even I'm not sure of what the exact question or the context of question is. I just asked like if there is any error percentage that we can look for, like what is the data match difference, and how are we exporting data from Adobe Workspace? Is there like are you getting data directly from Adobe Workspace, or are you getting data from for example data feeds and then calculating the data using Logic's SQL, for example, in your data warehouse, for example, Teradata or something, and then you're trying to match the numbers. So then the other things were like there are deduplication and all those things that need to be taken into account, because if you are summing the numbers, for example, if you are using for a week, if you are using unique visitors and then you are summing them, then of course that data will never match Adobe Analytics, because Adobe Analytics will deduplicate that data. So these were some of the things that I thought about, but because I would expect more context on this, so I'm not really and of course I've not come across this exact same problem in past, so I wouldn't have more context on this. So
okay.
either of you, I mean, if you have more idea
Yeah,
on what to be chipped in.
I guess I got the question
Yes.
here.
So
So
yeah,
what
the
the question
question
is?
was, yeah.
So do you want to go there? Yes, go on.
Sorry, I think maybe some lag on our end. I was just going to just reiterate the question for the group. How do we ensure that the auto exported data from Adobe Workspace report matches the data on the workspace? So that was what Isha was referring to, and the ways you can think about it and debug it. The additional thing I would say is to check the report suite settings and see what time zone it is set to, right? What is the start date of the week that you have set to? If you have changed it, usually it is set from Sunday. So though you want to check in the report suite settings, like for example, if your report suite starts on Eastern Standard Time, so end of day would be according to that. Whereas if you're reporting on the days from the previous day, the day may not be over yet. So your scheduled report would be at a one time zone, and what you are considering, oh, the end of day for you, and pulling a manual report, the data may be different, considering you're saying that it could be a weekly report, right? So if it's a weekly report, then another factor could be what's the first day of the week for you, like is it Sunday or is it another day? And then when you're reporting on weekly data, are you pulling the same exact dates of the data? You would also want to check if it is the last 7 full days or the last day. So there's preset data dates available in Workspace Project where you choose last 7 days or last 7 full days. So the full day may not be yet over when you're pulling the report, or the other way around, and hence there could be that delta when you're looking at the numbers. So that's a couple of other uh, tips to take a look at and see if that's aligned.
Yes. So since because the question is specifically stating we export every data at midnight, right? So I want to add a point there. So let's say you are scheduling these metrics for a day in Workspace, and if at all you are going to give the time as 12 o'clock, then the daily report is going to shoot out at 12 o'clock. And you know that the Workspace numbers at 12 o'clock is not the data for the entire day, right? Because you have like 1.5 hours delay in terms of the numbers. So if at all you are sending at 12 o'clock in the midnight, during the time, the 1.5 hours data would not be there. But on the next day, or let's say 6 o'clock in the morning, you come to validate the data that has been sent or got from the mail versus the data at 6 o'clock using the same date range. The missed data would not match at all. So always, whenever you are sending any exported data to your mail ID, right? Ensure that you are not sending it at the midnight. Rather, you say that 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, which is the previous day, right? So that the complete day cycle would be completed. So that when you come and validate your data that is there in the mail as well as in the workspace, it would be absolute. It should not be any difference in my understanding. Until otherwise, your midnight, right, scheduling has to be a little bit changed, right? So if it's the same same report suite, everything is the same, but still if you see a difference, then the obvious culprit is the midnight scheduling. So you need to just move the schedule time to 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning, and then come back next day, compare it. You should have the perfect numbers.
Awesome. A lot to think about. Okay. The last question that we have that. Oh,
Yeah, would you be okay to reload the page because I've added
oh,
two reports here?
okay. Let me quickly do that. This is live collaboration going on right now.
Yeah,
uh, yes, I do see some new content in here. Is this what you intended?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So
I'll leave it here.
yeah, you can read out the question.
Okay, yeah. Let's get the question out. Okay, so I would need to find out the last product landing page. I'm assuming that's what they mean. Viewed before a purchase. How could I do that? I wouldn't, yeah.
So I saw this question in Experience League, and there are two ideas that probably I will do it if it's required. I think the first one would be to build a sequential segment, and this is very simple. Like this segment simply says product views, then orders. Assuming product views will only trigger on the product landing pages, then if you will break it down by page dimension and look at page views, and in the page dimension just filter out products, so it will kind of give you an overall view of the products that have been viewed that kind of ultimately ended up with an order. But I know this would be a like a this would give you a holistic view. But if you are looking for more granular view of data, you may want to yeah, it just simply says product views and online order exist. But if you have like specific orders, like for example if you have a specific online product that you want to look at, then of course you can just group the products or category in the then part of the segment and then look at the pages that has been viewed before. Or if you want to build it sequentially, for example product views and cart additions, because I'm assuming that even before orders there would be cart additions that happens from a product view page, so product landing page. So in that case also you can just build your segment like product views, then cart additions, and then orders, and what was the exact page that was viewed before the cart event triggered. So for the cart event metric, you can look at the previous page if you have the previous page metric built out. So in this case your segment will be something like cart views, then orders, and then just before cart views you will be looking at the previous page. The other method was you can use this Sankey chart or flow diagram as we call it. So what I did here was I used online orders as the last step here, and I used page dimension to look at the metrics. So you can also use your order confirmation page as the last dimension, and then you can branch out for the previous steps until you get where you are looking to go. For example, here you can see in the first column we can see product pages, and then in the last one we can see online orders. So what it is telling us is that app product details, or the second one product details PRD 1036 is leading to some of the orders. Of course we can just highlight it and then you will get the exact numbers. So if you are looking for some sort of just analysis of where my what is my most popular product landing page that leads to orders, or where does the orders come from, where cart additions happens, I think you can just utilize this kind of chart. That's my 2 cents. Deb and Pradeep, your thoughts please.
Yes, I would love to go with this flow diagram. So it is upfront, and most of the time, it is always important for us to group the pages into the product category, product details, and everything. One of the good reason for this is, let's say I have all these things properly grouped together. In the left hand side, I can see product details, and every individual product details is there. If at all we have a category, we can also create the segment directly from that, right? So you just right click on any of the left side of the page, you just click on it and create a segmentation for that particular user. It will give you list of products that has been seen or that has been viewed, right, or product viewed page before any particular order confirmation page. That is one way of easily going through it. But if at all we need to get this little bit complex, I would also go with the segmentation, as said, sequential segmentation. But in sequential segmentation, what I would do is I would also add one more component or one more criteria to it, which is before and after segments, right? So whenever you use a sequential segment, it need not to be the case that you need to include the entire visitor or entire visit or entire actions into it. Rather, you can define whether I need to include only before sequence or only after sequence. And if at all I go for only before sequence in this case using an order, then I can understand how many visitors or visits, how many PDP page views are seen before any particular action is taken. Here, the action is not, it is just about an order. So I have shared one link to you from Audrey. So this is one of the very older document related to sequential segmentation. I still have it handy whenever anybody asks, right? I always share this particular doc to everyone because it explains clearly on how you can use a sequential segments to understand how many times something has been viewed before an order, how many times something has been placed, right, how many orders has been placed before an let's say before an search has been placed, right? So multiple condition or multiple criteria can be utilized using that particular segments. And I have also written a blog, how can you differentiate or how can you mid around, right, between multiple pages. So using sequential segmentation in an in-depth way is one way to understand what is the last product seen using a last touch channel. And this everything in turn, right, give you a high level idea on what is the final product or what is the last touch panel that is being seen. So I would take a look. First option for me is flow analysis, straightforward, upfront. If I didn't get the required answer in that way, then I might definitely go for a segmentation to understand how I can narrow down my particular ask and see and validate whether the segmentation is really helping us.
So, one of the aspects that I'll just add over here is that when you're looking at this, it is a very linear journey that we are assuming that visitors take. I would, as a reporting analyst, and this I have asked a couple of times as well, and I have done in the past, is to you yourself go through that journey and see if all actions, all pages, everything is tracked in the same way that you think that journey is going to be, like, and see if, so say for example, like today I was pulling this a similar report and trying to see it. So between purchase and the PLP, what are the additional steps that are happening, right? So in this itself, you see purchase step 1, purchase step 2 as additional pages. So my recommendation here is that go through the journey yourself, end to end. Obviously, if you want to buy the product, buy the product. But go through that whole journey and see if that is actually how it happens. And then you pull out the report. You can do different levels. I usually try a fallout for any kind of conversions to see if it is happening in that same linear journey, which I assume it would, and see how much of visitors are actually taking the ideal expected visitor journey and how much of conversion you're getting out of it. Whereas look at these other options which are more open ended. This kind of a visual gives you more open ended and gives you more insights, and see the difference between the ideal path and the actual most popular path, and see how you can match the delta and get them to that path which is more efficient, which is faster to conversion path. That would be part of the analysis, I would say. So, yeah, that's my um, addition to anything that Isha or Pradeep have said. I believe that's the end of this particular set of questions that we came to this conversation with. I'm going to quickly check the chat. Okay, we have Mandy. What's one tip for reporting or implementation or both that you wish you knew sooner? Okay, that could fill the remaining 30 minutes. Thanks, Mandy. But yeah, Pradeep, do you want to go first and then we can continue?
I'm just trying to digest some of the important points. So I would take 1 or 2 more minutes, I would say.
Yeah.
And it is not a one tip, it might be a bunch of tips together. Um, I'm just thinking from the configuration, I'm just thinking from the implementation, right? Since because right now it is just reporting and implementation. Um, since because it is a tip, don't want to give anything that is there in the documentation, and so I'm just thinking. So meanwhile, if you want to go for any of the tips,
Yeah.
please go on. But by the time I will also come up with 1 or more tips.
Okay. So this may not be a very technical tip. Where the team which I sit on, we have technical conversations, and we also have approach or philosophical conversations or principles on how do you look at understand data. So one of the things that we think of is, and it applies to this scenario as well as many other questions that we deal with in real life, is um, we ask two questions in any scenario: is what was this supposed to do, and how do we know it is doing that, right? So say for example you're in an implementation scenario, what was your site supposed to do would be, okay, this is my site supposed to do, and how do we know they've done that? So the business will answer the question what the site was supposed to do, and the implementation team will provide a consultation on how do we achieve that, or how does the metrics that we set up on the site or the tagging or the data points that we capture, how does that tell you that that was what the site was supposed to do? So these are the two basic questions we ask in any scenario. Let's say if it's in reporting, right? So, what was your report supposed to do? And what metrics are you going to put, or what KPIs are you going to set up in reporting to say that you have got the job done, whether it's a campaign, content, or even site performance? The same questions you would ask when it comes to reporting as well. What was it supposed to do, and how do you know it is done? So, it applies in a much larger principle or philosophical way, but it when you break down those two questions, it opens up conversations that could last for hours, especially when you're setting up an implementation, as well as if you're reporting on like an impact story or writing out a performance analysis.
Thanks, Step.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of something like Pradeep. For implementation, I think there is one thing that I kind of learned. I would admit a bit later than I should have, and it's about events. So it's very straightforward. I would say it's just a technical one-liner that uh, in Adobe Launch or even in Telium, when we are looking to create events, event-based triggers. For example, if we are looking to create something based on form submit, sometimes we see that we have selected the event as submit, but on form submit, it will not. The event will not trigger at all. So I learned that it happens because we have to check the event listeners. So I think for anything, what I would say that if you are looking to evaluate submit, for example submit or click or any sort of event on any of the events, any of the CSS selector, then I would say that you just look at the event listeners in the developer console. That has helped me a lot, and that has really kind of given me a lot of like it just kind of eliminated lot of recurring task of why it's not working. So from troubleshooting point of view, it has really helped me. Pradeep, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'm just going from the, let's say, I'm trying to onboard any particular customer, right, to Adobe Analytics. What are the things which I usually do, right? Starting from the implementation, governance, and documentation, right? See, one of the things which I would wish I would have done it sooner is related to Adobe or data collection tag management, right, or tags or Adobe launch governance. So when I started all these implementation before years, we were just going and giving some random names to all the rules, data elements, and everything. And over the period of time, it bulged up like anything. And many times, if at all I want to debug anything, so the debugging was not easier. So I need to go understand which particular rule it is, which particular action it is firing, and what is the sequence number, right? Multiple other things I was doing from the governance point of view. And this governance became a huge bottleneck for me. Over the period of time, then we understood how do we govern all these components within Adobe Launch from the implementation side. Giving a proper name and setting a proper process in terms of either you are creating or editing or decommissioning any particular rule would help you on a longer run. So recently, so after that, what we have done is we have created nomenclature for every component in Adobe Launch. So if it is a global rule, right, always it would have something like a 0, 1, 2, let's say 100 global rules, right? We would have set some numbers to it. 1 to 100, it would be always global rule. 201 to 200, it would be always page specific rule. 201 to 300, it would be always event specific rule, right? So we have worked on such a way that we are grouping all these different rules, not only rules, the same case go to data elements, right? All these things properly, and every rule will have a proper naming convention. It would have start with like 001, and then it will clearly say that whether it's a global rule or not. And if it is a global rule, which particular tool it is using, whether it's Adobe Analytics or not, or it's Adobe Target, or else it's a third-party tags, right? And then what it is ideally doing, right? It is giving a page view, like it's a global page view rule. It is a global, or else you can say any other rule name, right? The subject name or rule name or data element name. So when we started this method of having a proper naming nomenclature and all these governance in place, for one particular client or one particular website, it is going to be simpler. But think about you are going to work on a bigger company, right, where it has multiple, um, I would say, websites, mobile application, everything together, right? In that particular case, this is going to be super useful for you, right? So having a proper governance labeling or having a proper naming nomenclature, right, in your implementation always going to help us, right? This is one of the tip which I thought that I would have knew sooner, so that I can eliminate a lot of debugging time and a lot of things altogether. Also, whenever you are editing anything, whenever you are doing anything to your rule or data element, you have the release notes, right? So at any time, ensure that what revision you are editing and what is the purpose of that particular edition, right? If you say you are editing a revision of 41 to 42, you are upgrading something, say that in the note saying that, hey, I'm going to update this from version 1 to version 2. I want to do this because of these and reasons, right? So at any time, whenever you come back and debug anything, you would know who did it and why it has been done. And from there, you can debug. Believe me, it reduced, it arrested almost 50% of my debugging time when we started all these governance things. So from the governance point of view, my point would be to have a proper naming nomenclature, proper standardization in terms of how do you need to create an element, utilize any components with an Adobe launch, and ensure that for your debugging it is useful for you, right? So this is one. And from the configuration end, I would say that the configuration might be from the Adobe Analytics overall report suite configuration, as well as report suite configuration for, or else some of the metrics within the report suite. And Deb has stated one of the things clearly, and Deb, I have done this during my earlier days, right? So usually what we have is the name of that particular report suite. We don't have anything like what is, it's a dev or it's a production. Even though we have it, most of the time people, business people, the start 100 character limits only visible to us, right? But it won't have less of the things. So having a proper report suite name, including the report suite ID at the back end, would be super helpful. And whenever you are having dimensions, which is there for prop and EVA together, ensure that the names are a little bit different, right? Don't give a name stating that a country one with the prop, one with an EVAR, because people at the front end, they might be different users. They might not be the users who knows about Adobe Analytics very well, what is a prop or what is an EVAR, right? So if at all they are going to use our workspace, and if at all we want to push them in terms of using their workspace for their reporting, then we need to clearly state that, right? Hey, this is a country for pathing, countries for pathing purpose, right? For rest of the things, I would say just as a countries. So people would know that when I say country, they would not ask me back a question of which one I need to use, whether it's a prop or an EVA, right? So having a proper naming convention whenever you are enabling those metrics and events would be ideal. And one of the thing in terms of event is I will always go for the subset of events. Think about searches, right? This is one of the common used event in place. So we would have searches event by default captured, and everybody would capture the search event. But most of the time, there will be a question also coming to us saying that, hey, how many searches we have a zero event? How many searches we have a some sort of search results coming in, right? Then you need to go to an event, right? And then break it down by what is the number of searches and anything. But if at all you have two events, let's say event one says that search with results and search without results. And then you are also capturing or need not capture, or even if capturing is fine, one is about overall searches, right? So if you have three events for one searches, even to visualize everything, it is going to be really useful. You can have a stacked graph on these two events directly stating that, hey, how many overall events, right? Because it is going to sum up to give the overall searches, right? So having granular events and ensuring that granular events are capturing properly, right? Because we might think that, hey, we can do a simple calculated metric on top of it, but you know a lot of limitation in terms of calculated metric, right? And you also know that there are 1,000 events. It is not just about 100, 200 events, right? There are 1,000 events, which means at any organization till now, even though it is a very large entity or enterprise, I never seen that somebody created 1,000 events and run out of events. So I would say that one of the tip for you is capture as deep granular as events you want to capture, and then capture the overall events as well. So at any time for visualization, it is going to be super helpful for you without the need for creating a calculator metric. So since because it is on the running note, right, these are some of the tips I would say, right? Governance, ensure that launch governance and all these things have a proper naming convention. Same thing goes to configurations as well. And even from the implementation standpoint, ensure that you capture the granular events, and this is going to be helpful not only from the implementation standpoint but also from the reporting standpoint for the easier reporting. And the last but not least is documentation. Ensure that whatever you have done in your entire onboarding journey of Adobe Analytics, you have a proper tagging specification in place, proper configuration document in place, right? What not? It need not to be the template that is given by Adobe. It need not to be the template that your organization is using. It can be a simple document. It can be a simple PPT. It can be a sophisticated Excel document that you want to do. But ensure that any particular change or any particular document, any particular update or deletion or edition is properly documented. Documentation is one of the important, what I would say, right, important process in terms of overall onboarding of Adobe Analytics. And when you have a proper documentation, I have seen in multiple organization with the proper documentation will never have a lot of questions. But if you don't have documentation, now or then there will be some question popping up. There will be a new person who will be joining, suddenly asking everything. You need to repeat everything from the day one of what you have done. So proper documentation would be my last point, right? So these are something which I would say I would have knew it earlier during my earlier days, so that I would have leveraged a lot of time which I had earlier.
Awesome. I think we have enough tips to go around for everyone. Okay.
Just counting
I
the tips from the onboarding, right? See, we just
Oh
got
yeah.
4 tips from the overall point, but if you think about all the nuances there, you would have seen 100 nuances, right? So everybody would have seen 100 nuances, and they would have learned from it, starting from customer attributes and everything. But since because we have a limited time, and since because we don't want to really indulge with a lot of technical nuances. So these are some of the common nuances, I would say, or common tips, right?
Yeah,
Which would definitely help people.
totally agree. Okay. Uh, Looks like we don't have any more questions in the chat, and we are almost at the top of the hour.
Okay,
So
I,
I
I have
hope.
one question, Deb, for the people who joined. Can I go and ask
Okay.
them? I'll be I guess there are three to four more people, right? Say how well your organization is seeing customer journey analytics, because I want to understand that question. I know that most of our organization also tempting to migrate from Adobe Analytics to CJ, right? Or else at least in the starting round of discussions. How about how about in a lot of other orgs, right? I can see few people are joined, right? I can see Soumya, I can see Fernandez, right? What is the talk going on with AEP or CJA, right? Are you really going on with that, right? Are you exploring any options related to that? Or else, even you can also say that might be AI adoption is little less, so you need some time in terms of even migrating to CJA, right? What is the ask here? I would love if at all you can talk possibly, or else you can also ping us. I would love to understand what's happening over there.
I think we'll have to catch them over Experience League or in the chat if they'd like to drop an answer.
Yeah.
Uh, or if you have any question, we are going to stay here for a minute, and probably if you do have questions, put it in the chat. But yeah,
So how are we preparing for Adobe Summit then? Isha, what's happening with Adobe Summit, because that is the next round of.
Yeah, I mean, right now my son is like, I want this video, that video. I'm just all good. I think it's kind of giving me. It has started giving me dreams, or I should maybe call nightmares, that I'm not prepared. So I think I just need to start preparing more. So that's the right now that's happening. I just have to prioritize it over everything else for now. But yeah, I think I will reach out to you guys for the additional help if I need something.
Sure, sure, Isha. Always.
okay. I guess that is the end of today's presentation. Um, Thanks everyone for joining, and do catch us next week. Sorry, next month at the same office hours, EMEA time zone. Thanks. Pradeep.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Deb. Thanks, Isha. Nice talking to you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.